All right, we're going to go ahead and get the 9th annual legislative session of the Congress of Neighboring Communities started. So my name is Mayor Marita Garrett of Wilkinsburg and currently am the chair of Connect. So I want to welcome everyone and thank you all for coming out tonight. I know it's technically supposed to be spring, so it really means a lot to see everyone here on this cold, snowy day in April. So if you would please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Again, for those of you who may not know me, my name is Marita Garrett, Mayor of Wilkinsburg, and as I mentioned, all right, thank you, Jeannie. We have a fan down there, Alcasan, always a great supporter, appreciate it. And so I've had the pleasure of serving as the chair of Connect for the past year. So tonight we are coming together to celebrate accomplishments as a Congress and to pass resolutions that will help us to guide our work for the coming year. But first, I'd like to take a moment to thank the generous sponsors of tonight's event. So our connected sponsors, Alcasan, GRB Law, who have been longtime committed supporters of our organization. Our supporting sponsors, Dickie McCamey, HRG, and Michael Baker International. And our friend-level sponsors, Gateway Engineers, GTN Law, and CS McKee. Your generosity and support is very much appreciated and continues to help us grow. So we have a lot to get through tonight, but I just wanted to first say a few remarks, maybe a few moments of reflection as you know, my year of being chair here is coming to the end. And I will have the pleasure of passing the gavel to Mayor J.R. Henry of Westview. But I believe it's, about 4 years ago is when I first became a part of Connect and was introduced to this organization. And that was also my first year serving on council in Wilkinsburg. And I was still getting my feet wet trying to figure out, what's my role? What should I do? What are some of the things, I should be passionate about? Also trying to understand Act 47, Sunshine Act, Right to Know, infrastructure, and everyone's favorite topic, sewer management. So trying to understand all of that and being a brand spanking new council person. So at one of our council meetings, it was time for the board to delegate who would be assigned to what committee. So who would be assigned to the COG, who would be assigned to personnel committees, different things like that. So when it came time to assign a delegate for Connect, there was kind of silence. And then everyone said, oh, well, let's have Councilwoman Garrett do it. Nobody else wants to do it anyway. And I was like, oh, okay, really? And I'm like, hey, why not? It's part of being the low on the totem pole. So I went to my first meeting, and Kristen was right there, as well as former executive director Kathy Risco. And I just truly, absolutely enjoyed it. It was such a pleasure to see Pittsburgh and the neighboring surrounding municipalities all to get together, not only share successes from each community, but also any obstacles or challenges that they faced and, best shared practices. And I hadn't seen that before, and if anything, it made me feel even more comfortable in my role as a newly elected official. I felt, truly I'm not alone. Hey, they're going through the same issues in Etna that maybe we're going in Wilkinsburg. Or, hey, let's look at what Churchill has done for this, or Bellevue. All these different municipalities, many of which I was not aware or had heard of until joining Connect. So for that time, and especially in these past 4 years, I'm truly thankful for you all, and especially our new members who continue to help us grow. I remember my first Congress, we probably came somewhere at the halfway mark. So to see it extended excited to see more friends and supporters join us. It really, truly means a lot to me. And so now I have to say to those who, just put me off on this assignment because it wasn't the committee anyone else wanted to, that I feel that I benefited more from this assignment than maybe my fellow colleagues did on theirs. So I want to thank you all for being a part of this past journey. I look forward to being your immediate past chair and to continue working on many of the initiatives and projects that we already have brewing and coming up in the future. So with that, I would like to again thank my fellow Connect members for entrusting me to serve as your chair for the past year. It has truly been my honor. And furthermore, with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Connect officer and longtime supporter, County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, who has some remarks for us.
Thank you, Marita. And thank you. And congratulations and thank you for your work as the chair. And welcome to Mayor Henry and his wishing him good luck in chairing the Congress. This group has really done some amazing things, and I think it's a testament to the work of people who are really willing to roll up their sleeves and work on some tough problems and tough projects and tough challenges that we all face. I think most of us who got into elected office never realized the level of expertise we would become on things like sewers and roads and asphalt and, you name it. I mean, all the things that budgets and, bond issuances, et cetera, but we have to. That is our job. And to come to something like this, as the mayor said, to share problems that you think you're the only ones having, but the other municipalities are having something very similar, and to be able to share those challenges and successes and maybe failures as well, and to learn from those is really, really important, because we're only going to move forward if we all move forward together. I think in the past, years ago, there was a lot more territorialism. There were people were divided, and I'm in my little my area, and I don't have to worry about everybody else, but we know we're all interconnected. We know on things certainly like transportation and sewers and trails and all the things that economic development initiatives, we all have to work together, and that's how we succeed best is what we're doing. And quite frankly, the nation has seen how Pittsburghers, and I use that term obviously in a very broad sense, how we work together and solve problems. And I hear that from my colleagues as county executives around the country, that what are you guys doing, how you work together with the business and private sector, the public sector, your universities, your foundations, your nonprofits, all coming together. It's not easy. We know the challenges we have, and we haven't even talked about landslides. We didn't even really talk about those in the last couple of years. And then this year, it hit us like, every one of us. We've had, I think, over 70 or 80 so far in Allegheny County, and it's affected all of us. And so as we face new challenges, still dealing with the old challenges that we have, we're here to work with you. And I know you've worked with Darla Cravata, and talk about a regional asset. We know how important Darla is. Yeah, exactly. Give her a hand. She deserves a hand. And we're here to help you. And I also want to introduce, I brought with me tonight our assistant county manager, a new person. Would you stand up, Andrea? You'll get to know Andrea Stanford. But from County Manager McCain and my Chief of Staff, Jennifer Liptak, and Darla and the whole team, we're here to assist, whether it's our Public Works Department, our Parks Department, Economic Development, vacant land, CDBG, all the things that we work on together. Regardless of what's happening in Washington, regardless of what's happening in Harrisburg, we've got to continue to work together to find solutions here locally. So again, I have the proclamation. I'm not going to read it. You have enough to go on and do, but I appreciate the effort that people are willing to come together. You're right, Mayor. A few years ago, it was a much shorter room. The room's getting bigger, and that's a good thing. Getting more people engaged and more people involved, and we're happy to see that. And I also know part of the most valuable part is when it adjourns and we go back there, and you really do get to share and join in. And the other thing that's exciting, as I wrap up, 2017 was a huge change in local government. There were so many new people who ran for the first time or getting elected for the first time, whether they're mayors, borough council members, commissioners, supervisors. That new infusion of energy for those of us old timers that can have been around for a while, it's great to see. So it's a great mix, and let's continue to work together, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, County Executive. Up next, I'd like to introduce another Connect officer and longtime supporter, Pittsburgh Mayor Bill Peduto.
Thank you, Mayor Garrett. As a student of Professor Miller, I learned that Allegheny County is the most fractionalized government structure in America. We have the most governments per capita of any county in this country. 1.2 million people governed by 130 separate governments. Connect is the opportunity for us to work together, to keep those unique characteristics of every township, every borough, every city as they are, while at the same time understanding that collectively we can solve bigger problems and be able to do it for less money. Watersheds don't know political boundaries. And when it comes times of floods or systems that break down, we are forced to work together because it requires a collective ability to do so. But that's playing defense. And we do play defense very well. But it's more important that we start to learn how to play offense and start to thinking about what are the ways that we can work together proactively to be able to stop problems from happening and be able to address issues before they become reality. Technology will change government. It already has, and it will continue to do so. We have the ability to partner collectively with our universities that are right here in order to be able to provide services more effectively, more efficiently, and more equitably to the people we serve. And we have that ability to capitalize upon the partnerships, not just between governments, but the partnerships that we can build with Connect through the universities themselves. So I'm looking forward to working with you for 4 more years and being able to build those partnerships and be able to help this region and to be able to understand the challenges that we have through a fractionalized government structure, but the opportunities that are there as well.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight, as we do at each Connect Congress, we are going to pass resolutions that will help to guide the work of this organization for the next year. So with that, I would like to read our first resolution of the night that will help us select our new officers for 2018 to 2019. So Resolution 18-01, to hear and act on the report of the nominating committee. The nominating committee recommends the Congress to elect the following officers. To elect as chair for a term of 1 year, J.R. Henry, Mayor, Borough of Westview. To elect as vice chair for a term of 1 year, Brittany Reno, Council President, Borough of Sharpsburg. To re-elect as secretary, treasurer for a term of 1 year, Mary Ellen Ramage, Manager, Borough of Etna. To re-elect as manager representative for a term of 1 year, Steve Buter, Manager, Borough of Carnegie. To appoint as immediate past chair for a term of 1 year, Marita Garrett, Mayor, Wilkinsburg Borough. To re-elect as the Allegheny County representative for a term of 1 year, Rich Fitzgerald, County Executive, Allegheny County. To re-elect as the representative of the Mayor's Office of the City of Pittsburgh for a term of 1 year, William Peduto, Mayor, City of Pittsburgh. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. So thank you and congratulations to our new officers. I'd also like to give a special congratulations to J.R. Henry, Mayor of Westview, who will now be serving as the new Chair of Connect. Before he gets started, I understand that we have a proclamation to present from the office of Pittsburgh City Councilman Corey O'Connor. Unfortunately, Councilman O'Connor had a last-minute travel come up this week, but we are happy to have his Chief of Staff and good friend to Connect, Kurt Conrad, here to present the proclamation to our new Chair, J.R. Henry, on behalf of the Pittsburgh City Council.
Thank you, Marita. As Marita said, the councilman is currently heading towards Harrisburg, and trust me when I say that he would much rather be here with you all tonight. Again, thank you, Marita. I have been coming to Connect for 2 years, a little over 2 years, after getting coffee with Kristen one day. And it has been inspiring to me to sit here and see you all work together and know that we can, as different elected officials, different governments, work together to get difficult jobs completed. And as I said, it's just an honor for me to present this proclamation. So, whereas the organization will host its 9th annual Connect legislative session and reception, where they will share updates of Connect's policy work related to coordination between municipalities and utility companies, emergency medical services, and opioid epidemic, and identifying priorities for the coming year. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby recognize and commend the Congress of Neighboring Communities for its commitment to promoting intermunicipal cooperation, and be it further resolved that the Council of the City of Pittsburgh does hereby declare Thursday, April 19th, 2018 to be Connect Day in the City of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Conrad. As your new chair of Connect, I'd like to again welcome you to the 2018 Annual Congress. I am certainly honored and humbled to be elected to this position. Before we move forward, I'd like to take this opportunity, as is our tradition, to present Mayor Garrett with a plaque to commemorate her service and leadership to Connect. I know anybody who's worked with Marita knows that she has an incredibly busy schedule, and she's extremely passionate about all the things that she's involved with, including her involvement with Connect, even though she ran a very strong mayoral campaign this year. And she's been, really, really committed to her role as the chair of Connect. So, Marita, we have this plaque for you. And I'd just like to read it to you. The Honorable Marita Garrett, Mayor of Wilkinsburg Borough, in thanks and recognition of your service as the Chair of Connect of Neighboring Communities, 2017-2018. Thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us again today. It's really been another great year for Connect. I know a lot of you are involved in a lot of the committees and task forces that we've organized through the year. And tonight you're going to be hearing about all of the progress that we've made over the last year, and also some new initiatives that we plan to tackle in 2018-2019. So we continue to demonstrate what we are capable of as a region, and we come together, as the previous speakers have said, to really collaborate and work together in solving some very complex regional issues. And we certainly couldn't accomplish any of this without the support of all of you, the member municipalities. But in terms of thanks, I think all of us recognize that the organization is really only as good sometimes as its staff. And so I want to take this opportunity to really thank Kristen and Lindsay for all the work they do 365 days a year, and I'm not exaggerating, they do a great job. And also I'd like to take the opportunity, even though he doesn't know that we're going to say anything, but Dr. Miller is here. Where's Dr. Miller sitting? There he is. I'm sure that all of you know, if you've heard of Connect, it was really this man's vision, and this man was the founder of Connect, both ideologically and practically. And I know a lot of us have taken courses he's offered, and he's certainly served as a mentor in me in many ways. So Dave, really, I'm humbled and honored to take over as chairman, but really on behalf of all the members here, we thank you for your vision and your commitment to make this organization what it is today. So thank you. So this brings us to our next resolution, which we are really excited about, and Marita already mentioned it, because it means that we're growing again. So with the support of their councils, the City of Duquesne and the Borough of Blawnox have officially requested membership to Connect. They went through our very long and intensive review process. Just kidding. And today we are pleased to have the honor to introduce Resolution 1802, which reads, whereas the Borough of Blawnox and the City of Duquesne have requested membership in Connect, and whereas the Borough of Blawnox and the City of Duquesne have met the criteria set forth in the policy on inviting new municipalities to join the Congress of Neighboring Communities, and was accepted by the Connect Executive Committee in February of 2015. Therefore, be it resolved that the Borough of Blawnox and the City of Duquesne are accepted as member municipalities by the Congress of Neighboring Communities. May I have a motion to support that resolution? So moved. Second? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you and welcome aboard. Next up, we have a guest with us today that gets the Long Distance Travel Award, I believe. And he comes from Harrisburg to join us for this evening. It's my pleasure to welcome Richard Rick Viello, who's the Deputy Secretary of Community Affairs and Development at the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, otherwise known as DCED. Rick joined DCED in March of 2015 as the Executive Director of the Center for Local Government Services. In that capacity, Rick directed the efforts of the Tax Equalization Division and the Resources Recovery Team. Before coming to DCED, Rick served as a 4-term mayor of the Mayor of Lock Haven and was previously president of the Pennsylvania Municipal League. Though it's his first time in attending our Congress, Rick has been a Connect supporter for a number of years. As a matter of fact, in 2017, at Rick's invitation, our Executive Director, Kristen, and founder, Dave Miller, traveled to Harrisburg to present Connect's story at a DCED staff meeting. And Rick, we are very grateful for your continued support, and I understand you have some remarks to share with us.
Thank you. It is really an honor for me to be here. And I want to, before I get into why you should even listen, I want to share a little bit more of my background. I was mayor of Lock Haven for 15 years, 3 months, 2 days, and 20 hours. But I wasn't counting, and I often say that that was the best part-time job in Pennsylvania. It was really one of the most special things I can think of when it comes to public service. So I get really excited when I get in a room with any other local elected officials because I consider myself a local government nerd. And I often say, I'm from Harrisburg and I'm here to help, and that usually gets a chuckle. But then I say, I'm from Lock Haven and I'm here to help, and people take me more seriously. And one of my frustrations when I was a local elected and I had to call Harrisburg on my lunch break or on a coffee break or try to get it before 5 o'clock and everybody would leave, it was always like trying to chase your tail. And when I got appointed to be the executive director of the Governor's Center for Local Government, every local government in Pennsylvania fell under that umbrella. And then in February of last year, I was promoted to deputy secretary, and just the ways that I can support you grew. And I always believe that the rubber meets the road when you follow up with somebody and get the job done. And when I was first elected, the mayor before me came to me and pointed his finger in my face and said, "Valello, the best thing you could do is get an unlisted phone number." Well, he wasn't the best mayor Lock Haven ever had, so I've, come to the conclusion that if he gave me that advice, I should do the opposite. And I've continued to do the opposite. And there's paper, and everybody probably has a pen or your cell number or cell phones. And almost every meeting that I go to, one of the things that I do is give my cell number. And if you want to write it down, it's 570-263-0578. And I've done that for the last 18 years, 19 years. And I think it's really important when you're in public service to be reachable. And then my direct dial number in Harrisburg is 717-720-7400. Please, anybody that's here, don't dial my cell number right now. I did that at one meeting and my cell phone rang because I had forgot to turn the dialer off. And there was a guy in the audience, it was actually up in Warren, and he said, he had dated a lot in the 1970s, and that the girls often gave him the wrong number, and he just wanted to confirm that I was giving him the right number. So I think it's important. Our role at DCD is to support you in your everyday job, whether it's in your individual community or it's in a situation like Connect. And while I was mayor, I tried to do regional police, other regional initiatives, and it was always a challenge. So one of the things I want to thank you for coming out on this beautiful spring night. I know everybody else could have been home cutting grass or shoveling snow, but to come out on an evening when it isn't one of your normal meetings is a challenge. But let me just say how special Connect is. I know this is your 9th annual Congress, and some of you probably have been to all 9 and drink the Kool-Aid. Some of you are coming because, like Marita, you were the last one and had the, got the committee selection. But this is truly special, not just in Pennsylvania, but probably the whole United States. You truly are leaders in regional cooperation, in just having the discussions in this room. And they're hard discussions. From my first year to my last year as mayor, the job, instead of getting easier, got harder every single year. With pension costs and healthcare costs and asphalt, and our biggest project in Lock Haven while I was mayor, we built a completely new sewage treatment plant. One of the things I say is I learned more about poop than I ever wanted to know. And, you know, just getting that stuff in line to meet all of the regulations, work with all the state agencies, work with all of the federal agencies is a challenge. And it's getting harder and harder. And our constituents don't know where the municipal boundary lines are. Some elected officials don't know where the municipal boundary lines are. It's getting harder and harder to get people to run for local office. And when I see groups like Connect, we need to raise you up. I wish I could clone you and take you throughout the Commonwealth, because it is the way of the future, the way to cooperation and the way to have discussions. You know, when I say it's not getting any easier, it's, you know, just a challenge to meet the everyday needs of governing. You know, and I always try to get in, you know, fire protection. In 1975, there were 323,000 volunteer firefighters in Pennsylvania. In 2014, there were less than 50,000 volunteer firefighters. You know, the average age in 2014 was 56 of volunteer firefighters. In 10 years, is it going to be 66? In 20 years, how are we going to provide that service? Municipal managers, township secretaries, borough managers are getting older. How are we going to provide that service in the future? You know, we have to have those discussions now because the problems aren't getting any easier, whether it be sewage treatment, whether it be water filtration, whether it be fixing infrastructure. Connect is really, really important. What you do every day is really, really important. My role is to support you, and I am available at the drop of a hat to come out and try to help you solve your problems, whether it's individually or it is as a group. But believe me, this is special, and take that back to your council members in your home communities, your other supervisors, and the people that you work with, because Pennsylvania's future depends on what you do in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Next, we're going to get started with the presentation and resolution portion of our program. There is no need, quite frankly, folks, for us to read the entire resolution. So we're going to sort of paraphrase those and have some important comments made. And we're not trying to minimize the importance of these resolutions, but certainly in the efforts to minimize our time, we'll be just paraphrasing them. So the full resolution language is provided in your Congress folder. And so we'd like to kick that off now, and I'd like to introduce Jack Petkowski, Commissioner from Ross Township, to take us into our first resolution.
Thank you, JR. We at Connect know that we can't make progress alone. We rely heavily on our many partner organizations to advance our policy goals. And though we do like to talk about common issues and problems when we get together, we as a Congress also like to take time to commend partner organizations and their programs and initiatives that are helping our members and having a positive impact on our region. We at Connect would like to use this opportunity to recognize an organization and initiative that many here are familiar with, the Local Government Academy's newly elected officials course. The newly elected officials course is an 11-week program designed specifically for elected officials in Pennsylvania that combines both the legal and technical aspects of governing with programs designed to improve policy-making abilities. It is taught by instructors from every relevant field, including leaders from local, county, and state government, professors from area colleges and universities, and specialists from both the public and private sectors. I can tell you from my personal experience that the completion of this course was important to my understanding of local government, and I would recommend it to any newly elected official. With that, on behalf of Connect, I'd like to thank Local Government Academy's Executive Director, Greg Butler, and their former longtime Executive Director, Susan Hockenberry, for their hard work in developing and maintaining this program, and will introduce Resolution 18-03, which reads, "Therefore, be it resolved that Connect endorses the newly elected officials course. Be it further resolved that Connect calls on its member municipalities to recommend and provide financial support for the completion of the newly elected officials course for all newly elected officials." May I have a motion? So moved. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, Jack. Next up, I'd like to turn the program over to Steve Buter, manager of Carnegie and a fellow officer of Connect. Steve?
Thank you, JR, and good evening, everyone. First, I would like to take the time to thank Connect and all the supporters here for giving me the opportunity to introduce the Transit-Oriented Development Policy Update. As municipalities continue to research options on how to increase attractiveness in their communities, this organization has been able to connect our membership to different transportation possibilities and improvements. With a focus on alternative transportation, the Port Authority provides an outlet for individuals to reach different destinations all throughout the region. At any given time, Connect is working on a multiple of policy issues at once. And while some have just developed, one of our original and favorites is transportation. We've tackled a number of transportation-related issues over the past few years, but as of right now, there are two main focuses that we have, which are on complete streets and transit-oriented development, better known as TOD. Next, we are going to tell you about our transit-oriented development initiative that we really are excited about kicking off here this evening. In partnership with the Port Authority of Allegheny County, the Port Authority has been a great great partner for us over the past few years, and we are looking forward to working with them on improving what our communities can do for its residents. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Breen Masiotra, TOD Manager, Port Authority of Allegheny County, to tell us more about this initiative. Breen?
Thank you, Steve. Good evening. Let me try that again. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As you said, Breen Masiotra, Transit-Oriented Development Manager at Port Authority. And I'm going to start off by just making sure we're all on the same page here tonight with what is TOD. So I know that, this feedback is wild. Many of our municipalities know what this is and are embracing it, and we're working together on this. But just so we're all on the same page, TOD is dense, mixed use, walkable, and close to high quality transit. You can see on the right-hand side a map that shows a weird squiggly line around a transit station. The little circle is not circle. The little shape is 5 minutes or a quarter mile. The large shape is 10 minutes or a half mile. And that's what we use to say what is within walking distance of a transit station. So that's the area we're talking about when we're talking about close to high quality transit. And the definition of high quality transit sort of depends on your perspective. In the case of the work we're talking about here today, we're really focused on our fixed guideway stations. So that's light rail and bus rapid transit stations along our busway or rail infrastructure. But it can also mean places with really high frequency and high reliability transit, anything that allows people to live a lifestyle that can be based around transit. And there are many benefits to transit-oriented development, this kind of dense walkable development we're talking about here. They are benefits to the agency in terms of increased ridership and potential income. There are also benefits to the community in terms of increased retail spending, and there are studies that show that this is the case. that walkability promotes increased spending, that it improves affordability. So people who live in communities that are more walkable spend less on transportation, which means that they have more money to spend on other things. It reduces congestion, and that's just a couple of examples. In transit-oriented development, the transit agency's role is threefold. We see it as a sponsor, so that means when we have property that we can build on. As a stakeholder, meaning that there's development occurring in that walkable area, and we have an interest in ensuring that that's good quality TOD. And then as an advocate for, as it says, sustainable land use decisions and policies around our corridors. And that's really what we're here to talk about today, and we're involved in this project with Connect as an advocate. Our TOD program, just by way of background, has a couple of components. We have an internal interdisciplinary committee that works with us to advise Andrea, who's back in the corner, and myself, or the TOD staff, on these projects to make sure that they have a benefit to the agency overall. We have TOD guidelines, which I'll talk a little bit more about. A station improvement program, which reinvests capital dollars in our station facilities to encourage ridership and other investment. And joint development, which is of course the real estate itself, the real estate development itself. Our transit-oriented development guidelines are a best practice document outlining planning and design guidelines for high-quality transit-oriented development. We created this document because no such document existed in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania, or in FDA Region 3. And we worked really hard using models from other agencies to make this a good document. And one of the ways that we did that is by vetting it with lots of different folks who have a stake in what this document says. That's the internal group I talked about. It's transit stakeholders, and we certainly have a group of those we work with, and it was Connect. So when we were drafting this document, we brought it to Connect members and said, hey, does this work for you? Is this consistent with your planning, with your policies, and with your vision for what you want to see in your communities around transit? And then when it was complete, our board adopted it in the spring of 2016. The story from there, oh, just kidding, have my slides not in the order of thought. So part of best practice of TOD is, we're saying this is how it should be planned, this is how it should be designed, this is kind of what it should look like and how it should interact with the area around it. And a piece of that is how you design local policy to allow for that. So zoning is an important component of ensuring that you get the kind of development you want. And if you want TOD, you need zoning that allows for TOD to happen. And so, no surprise, after the beginning of my presentation, TOD zoning enables dense, mixed-use, walkable development close to high-quality transit. And as a result of our TOD guidelines being completed, we had an event at which we invited developers and funders to come and hear about these TOD guidelines. We wanted people to know that they were available, and that was an audience that we didn't have another way to reach. So we invited them to come, and afterward, a funder approached me and said, so do you think we could work on getting municipalities to get the zoning in place to make this possible? And I said, hey man, if you have money, I have time. So we started a conversation about that, and he said, well, how do we get that done? And I said, the first thing we have to do is talk to Connect, because that's where the relationships are. This group exists fundamentally as a way to collaborate on these kinds of common policy issues. And certainly as a transit agency, we have a relationship with all of you, but Connect has the trust and the foundation on which to work on a project like this. And Kristen was a willing partner, and we've gone ahead and made this project a reality. So we secured foundation funding. Port Authority agreed to match that funding, and we have gone through a process with a working group and then a subcommittee of that working group that was our selection committee to find a firm that has national expertise in transit-oriented development and zoning to help us work together to craft policies that will help the communities in this room who have transit infrastructure assets around which they'd like to see development make that more possible and make it better. So we have selected, as you can see, the logo at the bottom of the slide, Dover Coal Partners out of Miami, and they'll be working with a local firm, Community Solutions Group, to provide that assistance to the municipalities in the working group. And the scope of that work, which we'll be undertaking over the next 18 months, is a process that involves education, making sure we all are on the same page and have a solid understanding of the sort of fundamentals of transit-oriented development and zoning, and have a productive conversation. It's about input and what each municipality is trying to accomplish with this process. What does high-quality TOD look like in your community? In our guidelines, we have 6 categories of municipalities based on different conditions. Everybody's a little different. You have different uses, you're a different scale, and folks are in different places in the process. You know, some people have zoning code that was approved 6 months ago, and others, 20 years. So we have to think about all these factors and how to provide solutions that meet the needs of each individual participant. So that input is getting an understanding of the sort of individual problem statements, and then our consultants will develop guidance that is custom to all of our participants, and then that sort of taking all of that in, working through exactly what that looks like, providing a report, a guide, a tool that the municipalities can use to advance revisions to the code, and probably in many cases, and then technical support. So that's a key benefit out of this process, is having experts kind of on call to say, well, we've hit this snag, or we're not sure how to approach this, or we're not sure quite how to compromise between this need and this need. And so we'll have a time period there where we'll have these folks available to us to work through specific issues and provide that expertise on a longer basis. So we're really looking forward to this project. I think it'll be really productive in terms of providing a tangible benefit to our municipal partners, and enabling, again, the kind of development that we are all looking to see in these areas. So with that, thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Breen. With the West Busway having 2 locations in the borough of Carnegie, I was privileged to serve as one of the committee members who reviewed proposals and assisted in the decision-making process to select consultant Dover Coal and Partners. It is our goal to continue all of the progress being made between the Port Authority of Allegheny County, Dover Coal and Partners, and of course, the Connect organization. With that, I'd like to introduce resolution number 18-04. Therefore, be it resolved that Connect commits to engaging in an 18-month process with Dover Coal and Partners, the Port Authority, and 11 participating member municipalities to advance TOD. Be it further resolved that Connect will share best practices and lessons learned with the broader Connect community and interested municipalities within the Allegheny County, assist in the building of relationships between municipalities and the developer community, and continue to serve as a convener and advocate for the establishment of effective TOD that will benefit the region. May I have a motion to accept resolution number 18-04? All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve and Breen. Now I'm going to turn the program over to a man who needs no introductions, who's making his way to the podium. A staunch supporter of Connect, the manager of Shaler Township, Mr. Tim Rogers.
Thank you. Lindsay told me to fix the mic, so I tried to do that. Before I start, I got a call from Darla, from your husband. He wants to know what it means when the county executive says that you're a regional asset. Thank you, JR. The next topic that we're going to discuss is one that has likely touched everyone in this room, and it's the opioid epidemic. I think most of you have heard my story by now, but to tell it quickly, I knew that there was an opioid epidemic in our region, in my community, that was affecting my community, but it took a woman overdosing in a driveway in a township building and crashing into our building And when I went out to find that there were 2 children in the back seat of her car and that she had died on the scene, only to be saved, her life fortunately to be saved by emergency responders. And she did the same thing a month later. After that happened, I called Kristen and we started a conversation about what Shaler and all the municipalities could do as municipalities to deal with this epidemic. And what resources were out there and understanding the issue and the actions that we can take. This was almost 2 years ago now. What we came next was to establish a working group dedicated specifically to the topic. The Department of a partnership with the Allegheny County Health Department, the Department of Human Services, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and others. Today, 2 of our partners from the Allegheny County Health Department are here to tell you about what we have done to date and some of the goals for the coming year. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Abby Wilson, Director of Public Policy and Community Relations, and the newly hired Opioid Community Relations Manager, Jo Ellen Marsh. Ladies.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. This is my 3rd Congress, but it's my first in this new role, and I'm really happy to be able to be here and support you in this new role. So I am just going to take a few minutes to give you a picture of what we mean when we talk about the opioid epidemic. So this is showing how from 2003 to 2014, the opioid epidemic has spread throughout the country. On the West Coast, the East Coast, and up through Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia have taken it really hard. I borrowed this slide from DHS, and then I'm going to get into a little bit more Connect-specific data in a second. So this shows how in the Allegheny County, overdoses from other types of drugs have stayed relatively flat. That's that red line at the bottom. That's mostly alcohol and cocaine overdoses. But in 2014, overdoses related to opioids started to increase significantly. This is a heat map showing Allegheny County and how the opioid epidemic is spread throughout the county. A lot of it is centered in Pittsburgh, but there are a lot of the yellow areas surrounding show where it's also affecting other municipalities. So a lot of you have heard about fentanyl. Fentanyl is a drug that's 10 times stronger than heroin. In 2014, fentanyl was only found in 23% of opioid-related overdoses. By 2017, it's now in 87% of opioid overdoses. And this has been responsible for a lot of the increase that we've been seeing. Within Connect municipalities, this is the 2017 data. This is not complete. The medical examiner still has to finish some of the reporting from 2017. But as of right now, this is where we stand. In Connect, not including the city of Pittsburgh, there are 215 deaths just last year. And again, that's probably going to rise, compared with the city of Pittsburgh, which had 213. So we know that from the heat map, you can see that a lot of the deaths are in the city of Pittsburgh, but if we look at how it's affecting the communities surrounding it as a whole, we have just as many opioid overdose deaths in Connect as we do within the city of Pittsburgh. So it's important to remember that even though you might only have 5 overdoses in your municipality, if we look at the surrounding municipalities, it adds up. And then I put together this map just to show you how it's affecting Connect specifically. You can see in Penn Hills had the most. It also covers a larger area with 29, but it's affecting the north side, the west, and the east and south. So it's really everywhere. And I'm excited to be able to work on this topic with you, and I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Abby Wilson to talk about some of the things Connect and the Health Department has been doing and some of the things that we're hoping to be able to do.
So before I actually go into my slides, I want to say that Kristen and I hired Jo Ellen together for this role, which was generously funded by the Heinz Endowments. But we searched far and wide and interviewed a number of candidates. We got a lot of resumes, and I was really thrilled to discover that the best candidate, far and away, had already been working with Connect. And so it's just really, really heartening to know that people of Jo Ellen's brilliance and her humility and her passion for public service were drawn naturally to an organization like this one, and that's really a credit to you all and the work that you do and to the staff of Connect. So thank you, Jo Ellen. She's been here for a month and already done more than I have in a couple of years while she's a student, and she called me before going into her last final this morning to update me about the slides for this presentation. So you go, girl. Okay. So I'm just going to walk over the timeline really quickly of sort of where we've been over the last few years. As Tim said, we've worked very closely with the Health Working Group and have relied on you all to help guide the way as a department as far as the kind of support we can provide to municipalities and communities in general as they respond. And I do also want to say, although this focuses and this work is focusing really on the opioid epidemic, our work in overdose related to opioids has really opened up our department's perspective, kind of public health perspective on mental health and substance use disorders, generally speaking, and that's very, very important. So we've worked really closely with the Department of Human Services and are on an ongoing basis to make sure that we're providing all of you and your constituents with good information about treatment, counseling, services, you name it, harm reduction, and we're working very, very hard to do that. It is, like the local government system, the drug and alcohol system, treatment and counseling, as well as mental health, is extremely fragmented, and that continues to be a challenge. So I would also encourage all of you here, as you have ideas, as you encounter kind of breaks in the system or have difficulty navigating it, please see Jo Ellen and me as your resources. I can't promise we'll have the answer, but I can promise you will find an answer. So, actually, let me go back to this one. So, starting in the 2016, we heard pretty loud and clear from you all that you wanted support for a local response. What did that look like? This is like such a weird angle. I'm going to go this way. So we knew there was a lot of interest in prevention, and we knew that we had to talk to DHS about making those materials more available, and we did that. We heard some interest in harm reduction, which I was really pleased to hear, and to this day we continue to answer questions about not only naloxone but also syringe exchange. What is it? How does it work? What does it look like? And we're happy to continue to do that. We also wanted to provide municipalities with other concrete resources about programs like drug take-back, whether it's through the DEA, a box in the municipal police department, or projects like Project Dump run out of the sheriff's office, where this one guy, literally it's one guy, Deputy Joe, will come to your house or to your community event to pick up prescription drugs. He's an amazing guy, and he, like our visitor from Harrisburg, is willing to give his cell phone number to just about anybody who asks, and that is great. As far as recovery, it was also clear that we needed to talk about what happens after somebody goes into treatment. So acknowledging that this is a chronic disease that people manage for their entire lives, what can we do to support communities, to support individuals in recovery, as far as social supports and things like that. And then finally, what is local government's role in all of this? I don't think we have a perfect answer to that question. You know, as Tim's story makes pretty clear, whether we've identified that role clearly or not, these issues tend to end up on our doorstep. But I do want to say, even while we figure out what elected officials and other community leaders should be doing specifically, the individuals who have been at this every single day for decades and decades are our first responders. And so I want to take a moment to give our paramedics, our firefighters, and our police officers a round of applause. I know that many of you in positions of municipal leadership also serve as first responders, and it's been enormously valuable to hear your stories and understand your perspective on this. So what we were able to do in the short term was to work with a national organization called Fuse Corps, which puts fellows in a local government environment for a 1-year period. We had an individual working with us for a year who started to prototype essentially what kinds of supports we could offer to municipalities. One of his chief concerns was trying to figure out what a partnership between public health and public safety looks like. Again, what municipal resources are valuable, and then also, once somebody overdoses, what are things that we could do to support those individuals on the day after? Let's say they don't choose to go to the emergency room, for example. Are there ways that we can support individuals who have overdosed, perhaps in a moment not of crisis, when they've just had an overdose reversed, but when things are a little calmer? And then we also, wanted to set up as much infrastructure as we could for community-level naloxone distribution. So not just by getting naloxone to first responders. If you don't know, and I made this mistake in the last presentation I did with Kristen, I forgot to define naloxone. Naloxone is a drug otherwise known as Narcan, that you may be more familiar, that reverses drug overdoses. It is non-addictive. It doesn't have side effects other than the effect of putting someone into withdrawal, which can be very dramatic. But the legal landscape in Pennsylvania changed at the end of 2014, so we're able to push it out pretty aggressively, even though that drug is not available yet over the counter through the FDA. Okay, so here are just a few of the resources that we have made available to you all. We're actually taking a hard look at those over the next 6 months to try to make them better and more user-friendly. But we wanted to give people basic information about what naloxone is, how it works, and what to do if you see someone overdosing. We wanted to give prescribers of opioids basic information about naloxone to insert with prescriptions so that anyone knows that these drugs are addictive and come with a great deal of risk. So it's a good idea for anybody who has an opioid prescription to have access to naloxone. And then also, as I've said, what are some basic information about treatment resources? It actually, producing this Need Help Now brochure took longer than I could have possibly imagined. It was just a brochure, and it took us about 9 months to do because the treatment system is so unbelievably fragmented. So even though it's just a brochure, I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back for that. I don't need you to applaud, but thank you very much. As far as the other kinds of things that we felt it was important for municipalities, Colin, our fellow through the Fuse Corps Fellowship, did create a municipal self-assessment. If you haven't seen that yet, we can provide it to you. It's essentially a checklist of things municipalities can do, many of which I've listed. Supporting destigmatization, we're continuing to think about how best to do that, but the more people self-disclose as far as being in recovery or having individuals in their own lives who are in recovery or who are struggling with addiction, that helps a great deal. I'm not going to read all of these in a ton of detail, but one thing I will highlight, especially because Joellen has already done a great job with this, is making data more readily accessible. So we work closely with the Department of Human Services to get as real-time as possible overdose and naloxone administration data, not just so that we can see trends over time, and I will note actually that the trends are looking good in the very, very short term. I am cautiously optimistic. Again, in the short term, overdose rates do seem to be flattening, if not going down slightly, actually. That's not to say what will happen as the weather warms up, and we've heard that from many of you anecdotally as well. So looking ahead, we received funds, actually naloxone, from the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for first responders and are pushing that out pretty aggressively. I brought 22 kits of naloxone with me today. They are behind that curtain. If you are interested in a kit, a naloxone kit for your municipal building, for a community organization, a library, an after-school provider, you name it, the state defined first responders very broadly, please see Joellen and we will get it to you. It's here right now and very easy to use. We're also going to be improving a digital tool to help people find medication-assisted treatment, which is extremely valuable, and continuing with our data access. I'm not going to read this one because I've talked long enough, but I do want to highlight two final things. One, which is that I'm pleased to announce here for the first time that the Health Department has received $350,000 from the Hillman Foundation to support additional research and community actually level grants on our response to the opioid epidemic. So those funds have not been awarded yet, but we did get the green light to share that with you all. So we will be looking to you and your communities to figure out the best way to spend small grants. That's going to be $100,000 in total. Most likely each grant will be up to $10,000, although it doesn't have to be. That would be potentially to support an after-school program, some educational event, something at a library. There are lots of evidence-based programs we can direct you to, but there are also lots of grassroots opportunities, activities that we've heard about and that we would love to support. The remainder of those funds are going to support qualitative research that will actually help us see what's happening behind the numbers. So it's one thing to know how many people die and where they die, but it's another to actually speak to those individuals and the communities that where they live. Including many of you. Many of you will actually be approached for interviews. You're not required to, certainly, but your perspectives would be very, very valuable. And then finally, I just want to share this with you. We were going to be hosting a training on Saturday, May 5th that we've had to postpone, but the community paramedic program, led by your very own local celebrity, Dan Swayze, hosted this training in Washington County and I believe one other location designed specifically for paramedics to talk through the impact of responding to overdose, better understanding addiction, figuring out ways to deal with burnout. So addressing addiction as disease, but also addressing first responders as humans who experience a very, very stressful and emotionally intense work environment. In parallel tracks, I didn't know this was happening, but it's wonderful. At the most recent recovery walk in Allegheny County, a bunch of individuals got together and decided to put together a big thank you card for first responders. And so I've highlighted just a very couple of snapshots of that. One from an individual whose friend was Narcaned 7 times. And is now in long-term recovery and actually works for a drug and alcohol treatment provider and is a certified peer recovery specialist. I know Anthony, he's an amazing, amazing person, and his story is pretty remarkable. And then another individual here whose life herself was saved when a first responder administered naloxone and reversed her fatal overdose. So again, thank you to you all for everything you do every day and for everything you're doing to destigmatize this issue and raise awareness in your communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abby. And although you patted yourself on the back, we want to take this opportunity to thank you for your partnership with Connect and also in my role as an EMS chief for all your work that you're doing, I know, with all the first responders, with the EMS services, police departments, and fire departments. So on behalf of all of those people, thank you very much for your dedication and what you're doing. Thank you. To continue on, I'd like to introduce resolutions related to this topic. I'd like to introduce Bill Stout, council member from the borough of Millvale. Bill?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Abby and Joe Ellen, for your information. And it was interesting in today's Post-Gazette, there's an article that the death rate seems to be going down. But as we all know, there's a lot more that needs to be done, and Connect is ready to do our part. With that, I'd like to introduce Resolution 18-05, which specifically refers to our role in the newly created Opioid Community Response Manager position. Therefore, be it resolved that Connect commits to dedicating staff and member time and available resources to engage with and manage this position to ensure that the scope of work and initiatives piloted address the priorities of Connect municipalities and establish a comprehensive approach to reducing overdose deaths and addiction. May I have a motion? May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
It passes. Thank you very much for doing that. For this next resolution, it's concerning the reversal drug Narcan, naloxone, and have determined that it is the belief of this Congress that all responders, all first responders, should carry Narcan in order to protect our residents as well as themselves. With that, I'd like to introduce Resolution 18-06, which reads, "Therefore, be it resolved that Connect calls on all first responders, police, emergency medical services, and fire to carry and utilize Narcan in all medically appropriate situations. Be it further resolved that Connect commits to serving as a conduit between agencies, municipalities, and organizations in need of Narcan and training with available Narcan, educational resources, and topical expertise." May I have a motion?
So move.
May I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody. I'm sort of jumping in the middle here, so I appreciate having a couple minutes of your time. In case anyone doesn't know me, I'm Kristen Michaels, and I'm the Executive Director of Connect. We've done a ton of thank yous, but I can't get through this without at least thanking a couple people myself. JR, I appreciate your thank you to staff, but I have to give my own thank you to Lindsay Angelo. I'm not sure where she is, she's over there. Lindsay is the most phenomenal teammate I could ever have. She planned this whole Congress. I used to plan this whole Congress, and so at this point I'm like, Lindsay, what can I be nervous about? What haven't we done? And she just absolutely runs the show. So thank you so much, Lindsay. I also wanted to thank all of our student interns and volunteers from this year. As you all know, we have a staff of 2, so we rely really heavily on our students. We've had some phenomenal ones this year. I'm not sure who all is here, but if you guys could, whoever's here, if you could stand up, and you deserve a round of applause. We really appreciate you. Thank you, guys. And congratulations to all of you who are graduating soon and all of you who have jobs lined up, which I think is almost everybody, which is awesome. Also, a thank you to our officers who, as always, you're the ones who run the show around here, and I appreciate your time. I'm going to just really quickly switch to something that's not on the agenda. This is kind of a last-minute addition, but I thought it was worth sharing because we're really excited about it. As hopefully everyone knows, Connect is housed at the University of Pittsburgh in the Graduate School of Public International Affairs. And that affiliation earns us, a few perks here and there. And one of them, or my favorite one, is, really close access to some of these really young, excited, brilliant minds. And every now and then something cool happens, like when Dave, or Dr. Miller in this capacity, comes into my office and he's like, hey, I have this capstone class and we need a project, do you want to be the client? And I was like, sure. And so I had the opportunity last fall to walk into Dave's capstone class, and essentially Dave's prompt to me was, what would you as the executive director like to help you with your job? And so I got to sit in this class and I said, you know what, if you guys haven't heard, we live in a really confusing region. And despite the fact that I've been doing this work for 8 or 9 years now, I still have a hard time understanding our municipal structure and understanding how the municipalities relate to each other. The school districts overlap, and the EMS services overlap, and the COGS overlap, and the watersheds overlap, and I still don't quite get it. It would be amazing if there would be a map that would show me how these, different relationships look. And also, if I could run my mouse over a municipality and really see, all of these demographics in one place, that would kind of sound like a miracle to me. And so what happened next was the class started working on this project. They took it, as far as they could, but what often happens is then the class ended, and it was, they had made some progress. And then it kind of stopped. Luckily for us, we had Joellen Marsh and Nick McClure, who's over there, who are incredible and really like data and maps, which is not a strength of mine. And they took it upon themselves, really, for no credit or anything, to make sure this project didn't die. And they picked up where we left off. They, along with Marissa, who's actually over there as well, they finished compiling the data. They looked into options for what kind of program we could use, so someone like me who is not very technical could actually, use this program. And then they partnered with the Regional Data Center, which is also part of Pitt, Rob Gradak, I'm not sure if he's here, and his team, over there. They took the data that we provided to them, and they helped to create this map, which I actually just saw for the first time in this form 2 days ago. So Joellen, who obviously wears multiple hats, she also babysits my kids and is amazing, so lots of shouts out to Joellen today. But she's just gonna show you just really quickly what it is that, that we put together. And go ahead, Joellen, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so, sorry, it's a little bit hard to see. So I just want to show you kind of what the map does. We'll hopefully be releasing it so you can all see it pretty soon, but it is still in development. So in this view, it just shows all of the different municipalities, and if you go and you click on one, okay, we have a savior.
Thank you.
Okay, so now you can see when I click on things. There we go. It'll show you the name of the municipality. I'll just talk really loud. How about that?
Yeah.
It shows who the congressional representatives are. We can add any sort of data that you guys are interested in. So just let us know about that. But if you click on any one of them, it'll show you. So if you were curious what school district your neighboring community is in, it'll show you that. We also have these really cool layers. So you can click on the watersheds, and watersheds will pop up and show you which watershed each municipality is in. You can also click on school districts, and it'll give you that view, so you can see all of the school districts and how those overlap. And then finally, we have the COGS. And you can see how the COGS overlap. So it's just a really cool tool that we hope that you guys will be able to use and find new ways to use it. If you have any feedback on it, you can talk to me, and we'll try to figure out how we can work that stuff in. And I think that's everything, so thank you.
Yeah, so like I said, it was just kind of this idea that would have been so helpful for me getting started. I think helpful for anyone that's trying to get a sense of what this region looks like. So we're excited. We'll be sharing more of that. At our next executive committee meeting, or the next time we have time, we're going to have our friends from the Regional Data Center come to show in more detail how to use this and what we could do and what we could add and get your feedback on it. So thank you again to everyone who helped bring that forward. Just up next, I wanted to note, just in general, if anyone happened to read my welcome letter, which I'm sure no one did, I wanted to put out there that for those who are here today that don't come to our meetings aside from once a year, I wanted to just point out that Connect at any given moment is working on a lot more than just what you see in resolution form or what you hear about in resolution form. Most people here know that policy can take a while, so just because we talked about something in 2015 and we don't talk about it the next year, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not still working on that policy issue area. So, that like this year, that's the case around the work we're doing in sewers, some things we're doing around emergency medical services, our Connect Community Paramedic Program, infrastructure repair coordination, there's no resolution on that. this year, but we do have a big update as far as our efforts there, and I wanted to make sure that we talked about that even though we're not passing a resolution on it. For anyone who hasn't been involved in Connect or hasn't heard about this effort, just by way of very brief background, in 2015, our municipalities started talking about what we could do to better improve the relationships between municipalities and utilities as far as road repair and construction. No one likes paving and then having their road dug up a few months later. What we did was we started with having a couple utility summits where we brought everyone together to talk about the issue and essentially said, what are the pieces that are missing here and how can we improve this collaboration? Since then, we've hosted twice yearly meetings where we bring together municipal representatives and utilities representatives, literally to just get in the same room and talk together about how they can plan better and share plans. The other big idea that came out of those summits in 2015 was, wouldn't it be amazing if there was a data platform that existed online where municipalities could upload their paving and construction plans, utilities could do the same thing, and if you're a municipality, you could go look at a map of your municipality, see where all the planned projects are from the utilities, put in your plans, and look at areas of possible collaboration and coordination. And next up, I'm going to introduce our partner, Marcos Bernal, who's a liaison representative with Pennsylvania One Call. PA One Call became involved and a partner on this effort very early on. They, as you know, are the guys to call if you're going to dig at all. I didn't mean to, I just did that. You guys should use it. And they, pretty early on realized that they were probably the right partner to look into getting this data platform off the ground. And so that's what Marco's going to talk about, Coordinate PA.
Okay, thank you, Kristen. Yes, as she said, we did talk about this way back in 2015. Resolution was actually put in, or took effect last year. It was 17-07, I think it was. And it was endorsed the Coordinate PA as a common data platform for infrastructure planning within the group within Coordinate PA. So we do want to thank you for that. Thank you for having me as well. I am the liaison representative for PA One Call for Western PA. Some of you may have seen us do a demo, as Kristen said, the last meeting we had in March. It was I think we think it was very successful. We had some training going on in the room as well at the time. So this next hour, I'm going to go over this for you. Nobody ran away, so you still have them. You're good. No, just a couple minutes. I'm going to go over just a high level, kind of overview of what we have for you right now. Coordinate PA. Is to identify the collaboration opportunities within the companies inside your municipality. It's going to define planned paving, construction projects, and an easy tool that works inside a web browser. No special software is required. There's no licensing required. You're already a member with the One Call system. You just need a username and password to join the One Call system, and you can use our system. I'll let you know how you can register after this. It is quick access to contact information from the utility representatives working within your municipality, and it provides project status and updates in near real time. Allegheny County is where actually PA One Call started. So we think it's fitting that we actually release this live to you almost first, actually. You're the first group to actually receive this live. We also work in another group in Lehigh County area as well who has been testing this as well. I keep saying live. It is active right now for you to use. So a little look at it right now. I already zoomed into, this is the demos page. It's not exactly how it looks live, but this is like a demo screen that we're using. This actually zoomed in right to Allegheny County for me. So you see the area in Allegheny County. You're going to see a bunch of little projects in the area for you to view. If you would go into the system, there's a list underneath it you can see there that would show you the planning, the processes, the planning, the plan project and things like that right there in a list for you to use. We have some tools on the left side of the screen that would show you zoom in, zoom out, set your home page. I set this one particular for Allegheny County, so you can set that every time you open it, it'll go right to Allegheny County for you. There's some layers if you use GIS layers or some standard layers. On the right side there for you, we have moratorium data for the city of Pittsburgh already in the live view as well, so you can see that as you're working for Pittsburgh as well. I'm going to show you a little bit of how you would use it. This is an example of a gas company project that I placed And you could tell I specifically made this presentation for you because it's the actual area that we're standing in right now. So this example would show you if you were planning on doing a gas project along East Carson Street, right here in Ward 16, for Pittsburgh Ward 16. You would enter the information, you would actually draw out exactly where you're working, or upload that information. So you can upload that file, draw that file directly on our map, and it'll save there for you where that blue polygon is on the screen, just inside the green area, which is the ward, outlines the ward. Next steps, it's going to ask you for the project information. Pretty simple. Like I said, this is a high-level overview. I'm not going to go into depth of every little piece here, but we're asking for project information, project name, work type. Dates are very, very, very important. I'll show you why in a second. So you want to make sure your dates are in there. Leave yourself a little wiggle room for the coordinating efforts as well. But we're really just asking you basic information here. We're going to ask you to map out where you're working and ask you the basic information for the actual work site. So once that's entered, you'll see we actually use the industry standard color codes for when you enter a project. So that example was a gas project. The color for gas is yellow. You'll see the blue actually turned yellow up on the screen here, and it overlaps a paving project, which we actually map in black. So you'll see a paving project and a gas project mapped at the same time. It then comes up with a green exclamation point. I think I'm electric. It then comes up with a green exclamation point showing you that there's an opportunity on the screen. Okay? So what this is actually showing you is that there's an opportunity between the dates that you actually selected. It's not me. Keep dancing? All right. So what it actually means is that the dates that you chose matched up with the dates of the paving project that's on the same layer. So then it's going to show you a green exclamation point and say, here's an opportunity to collaborate. Yes, we're still going to have our coordinating efforts. Yes, we're still going to have Connect meetings. Yes, we're still going to have regional partnerships around the state of Pennsylvania. We have 9 liaisons, including myself, that do the same thing around the entire state. We have our coordinating efforts monthly, quarterly, things like that. But we wanted, like Kristen said, a platform where you can upload your actual data as well. You don't want to pass out paper forms anymore, let schedules, things like that. We want you to put it directly into our system to actually show, to actually show everyone where you're working. When I say everyone, I'm not saying the general public. Facility owner members that have access to this can see this. Okay, plan out your jobs. There's stories of Bellevue Borough and Columbia Gas doubling a paving project because they shared costs. Things like that we've heard. We put your input into this system. If there are things when you're using this that you need to change or we need to add, we can do so. This is your system to use. We want it user-friendly for you. I just gave you a quick overview of the view. Like I said, the maps, once they overlay, you can start clicking on them. You'll click on it. If you click on an area, if you would have clicked on that pavement project, it would have pulled up the contact information for that actual project right there for you. You email the person, you call the person, and you have their information there. So coordinate that way. Coordinate PA software works directly with our web ticket entry software. Those of you who have used web ticket entry and do so, it works directly with that to enter notifications so that everybody's notified in that area. Again, the green exclamation point symbol alerts the user of the opportunity. The dates can be changed. So if you put a date in there and then you see an overlap, you contact that person and say, hey, we'd like to coordinate with you. See, can we save some costs here, save some time and effort? I don't want to ruin our street twice and redo it. Let's do it this one time. Go in there and change the date, update it, and the opportunity will show for others. So you can see that as well. You can change the dates. Connect 811 will be working together to offer future training opportunities. We're constantly wanting training opportunities. If you need a one-on-one, like I said, myself or the 8 other liaisons in the state would be happy to come to you to do a one-on-one training. I can pull it up here in the back. We talked to Kristen if I need to pull up the Wi-Fi. I have my laptop here. If you want to see it live, we can pull it up in the back while we're networking in here after the meeting. So it's really that simple. We're going to try to schedule some future trainings scheduled trainings, I should say, to come and actually meet and actually use our system. We have a training room set up in our offices, the ones you were at, the office you were at the last meeting, and we're going to try to see if we can move those around the county and things for you to use, so we can train you on this. The last couple things is that I put this in there personally because I believe this coordinating software you're asking for, you can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for a coordinating software. You can pay, you can be free. The coordinating software can be free like we're giving you. You can use this system. It's never going to work if you don't use it, ever. You have to use the program we're asking for. You now have a program where that you asked for, the input that you gave created this information, and then, but it won't work if you don't use it. You have to upload your information. We want you to coordinate. We want to help you coordinate these efforts. So again, if you see something in there you don't like, or you can't use, or you need to use, and it's not in there, we will add it. We have release 2 coming out probably later this year, maybe this summer or so, but so we're adding things constantly, so we're going to keep upgrading this information for you. The information for member services is there as well. If you'd like to gain access, you want to go through them to do so. You can always call me too. I'll be happy to help and lead you down the right path. But please contact them, get your access, check it out, upload your information, draw your information. It will only work if you use it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you and continued development of that exciting software. Thank you. We're going to move into the next part of our program, and we are really proud that, really, as you've heard, Connect addresses any issues, any challenges that we have in the region. It's a place where we can really, come together and discuss these policy issues and sometimes implement programs that really affect our residents. Some of the things that we talked about, including public safety, you heard about the opioid, transportation, energy issues, even some issues, some of our members have talked about the legalization of marijuana and the challenges that may present. So we welcome discussion on every topic, but as Kristen said earlier, we are a staff of 2, and we certainly support and recognize their efforts. So there's a lot of things that we would like to do, but sometimes we don't get the opportunity to actually tackle. But the next part of our program, you're going to hear about 4 resolutions that are topic areas that are new to Connect. And so we'd like to introduce Mr. John Frombach, Councilmember from Brentwood Borough, to introduce our next resolution. John?
Thank you, Mayor. Rick gave a quick segue on this topic when he was making his presentation and made reference to the crisis within the volunteer fire departments across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. As he indicated, back a little more than 40 years ago, we had more than 300,000 volunteer firefighters. Today, in the state of Pennsylvania, we have less than 50,000. That's an 80% reduction in the number of volunteer fire members across the state. This is a concerning statistic for all of us in municipal areas, especially, and most of us here rely on volunteer fire departments to provide the services in our communities. If this trend continues, there will be significant consequences, including significant delays in emergency response times to critical incidents, or bottom line, a total inability to respond. This also may have a significant impact on residents and businesses within our community as it relates to insurance rates. Additionally, if the municipality, any of our municipalities, have to start looking at other options other than volunteer fire departments and are required to fund a non-volunteer model fire department, the financial ramifications are going to be significant and just out of mind for us. This is an issue that we need to not only start thinking about, we should have been looking at before and talking about, and that's why we brought it to the Connect table. With that in mind, I'd like to present resolution number 18-07. Therefore, be it resolved that Connect will convene an emergency response working group to assess the impending crisis and develop recommendations designed to minimize the potential devastating consequences of a critical shortage of volunteer firefighters. Do we have a motion for that?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. To introduce Resolution 1808, I'd like to reintroduce Mayor Marita Garrett.
Thank you, JR. So gun violence is an issue that affects many communities across Allegheny County, and we believe that there is a role that Connect can play in addressing this epidemic, and that now is the time that Connect should proactively engage in the discussions and efforts that are occurring around our region and state to combat gun violence and to curb the associated community trauma. So with that, I would like to introduce Resolution 18-08, which reads, "Therefore, be it resolved that Connect will establish a working group to review available data on gun violence, work collaboratively with partner agencies, including Allegheny County Health Department and others, conduct an audit of current efforts to address gun violence, and recommend appropriate and effective actions for Connect municipalities to consider for their respective communities." Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. And the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I would like to introduce anyone who knows her, our resident tree tender. To my right, Mary Ellen Ramage, who's the manager of Etna Borough, and she's here to introduce Resolution 1809. Mary Ellen?
Thank you very much, and I am a tree tender. I'm not really good on the trimming part. It's a little bit dangerous, so you be around me when I'm doing that. But I'm here to talk a little bit about Allegheny County and what we all can do to help. Between 2010 and 2015, Allegheny County lost 10,000 acres of tree canopy. The Connect region comprises 19% of the county's land area, but represents 33% of that canopy loss. I have a little chart with me that I use at work all the time for many things, and it kind of tells you the benefits of a lot of stormwater management tools that are a little bit less traditional, and not just stormwater management, but trees. So tree plantings can help you with improving water quality, helps increase available water supply. Obviously, it increases the groundwater recharge, which deals with our drinking water. It improves air quality, reduces CO2, reduces the urban heat island element in effect, reduces noise pollution, and it improves habitat, just to name a few. This chart's, if anybody wants to know, is from the Center for Neighborhood Technology. But anyway, a tree is something that every one of us can plant and promote within our communities. We need to start looking at projects on every scale, transportation, all of these projects, development, in our communities, and make sure that we're doing our part to reestablish this tree canopy to protect our environment. And with that said, I also want to, if you're interested in a shade tree commission, and it's something you think you might not be able to handle yourself, Etna, Sharpsburg, and Blawnock started our own shade tree commission about 5 or 6 years ago, and we work collaboratively because we are all very small staffed and tiny communities. With that said, I would like to introduce Resolution 1809. Therefore, be it resolved that Connect calls on its member municipalities to pass ordinances intended to preserve and maintain its tree canopy. Be further resolved that Connect will work collaboratively with partner organizations, including Tree Pittsburgh, to develop and share model tree ordinances and identify available resources for communities that are interested in taking action to preserve and maintain their tree canopy. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. And for our final resolution of the night, it's my pleasure to introduce Rob Zahorchak, manager of Baldwin Township. Rob?
Thank you, JR. It's a privilege to stand in front of the board and their reception, their cocktails and food. I'll get away. I'm sure all of my managerial colleagues here will admit sometimes our jobs can be challenging. Occasionally you have a resident walk into your office with a question that really unexpectedly catches your attention. And I'm used to the routine questions, but my encounter was unique. Several months back, a gentleman came in who happened to be an immigrant and was asking for assistance because his gas had been turned off. And I knew, we have a plethora of social service organizations in the area, but I really wasn't sure which one to direct him to or how to get him started on the path. So I'll admit very clear that I don't have every answer all the time. But I'm also not the only one who experiences this. So I brought this up at a Connect Executive Committee meeting, and membership agreed that this was a common problem faced by many of our municipalities, and one that Connect could likely help us to address with some research and coordination of resources. So with that, I'd like to introduce our final resolution of the night, Resolution 1810, which reads, therefore be it resolved that Connect commits to working with the Allegheny County Department of Human Services, the Allegheny County Health Department, the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania, BigBird.com, and other partners to assist municipal representatives in navigating the network of human service providers in order to have the ability to promptly connect residents seeking assistance with available resources. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Well, as you can see, we have a lot of work to do, a lot of initiatives that we're starting both old and new. So this brings us to the conclusion of the program, and I just really want to thank you. We stayed on track for the program, Lindsay. Thank you for all your hard work, and Kristen up here kicking me under the table to make sure we came in under 6 o'clock. But in 2 hours, you can see we covered a lot of topics, and all of you maintained your attention level, and we really appreciate that. So let me conclude by saying thank you, not only for your time tonight, but we really look forward to your participation in all of our ongoing programs and committees. We really thank the staff again, and thank you for joining us here tonight. And I do want to make special note that my Westview representatives are here, and I want to thank you for all your support of Connect, Bruce and Kim and Brian. And Westview is one of those communities that, although I serve as the representative, I take back all the information, and they're very supportive. So thank you for being here tonight. And thank you all for being here tonight. Let's have a round of applause for our staff, and great job again. And we're going to adjourn to cocktails and some appetizers and networking. Thank you very much. But I do need a formal motion to adjourn, and I think Mr. Rogers wants to make that.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A second? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you again.